Go outside. Meet real people. That's how it's supposed to go. Please don't flirt with AI. They're not going to treat you better when they take over the planet.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I had some people reach out to the show, actually, talking about Brock being away today because he went to go see the Foo Fighters show in Toronto, and they were saying, how come you're not going? How come you didn't go? And I'll say this, it looked like a lot of fun. It looked like a great show. It was also on a Tuesday night. And I think I'm here on the precipice of 43. I have fully accepted, maybe not even accepted, maybe embraced the idea that sometimes a night in just sounds like the best option. When I was in my 20s, when I was in college, when I was a younger man, the idea of staying home was always the last resort. You know what I mean? It was always the well, I guess if there's nothing else going on, let's throw on a movie or a show and we'll just chill at home today. Or maybe you just take that much needed day off in between going out where you would be like, ooh, better sit this one out. My body is going to revolt if we keep pushing it too hard. But now I'm a little more on. I'm in my 40s, and suddenly the last resort has become sort of the first option on the roster. It's like, I still like to go out from time to time. We just went on a boat cruise last week. We went to Rock on the River not all that long ago. I'm very excited. I've got tickets to go see WWE SmackDown Live in Toronto coming up in a few weeks' time. So, I still like to go out. But I have also grown into loving the idea of just man, nothing on the calendar today. None of the kids have a sporting event or an activity or a hobby that we need to get to. We don't have any obligations. Nobody is asking or requesting our presence somewhere. I'm taking my socks and pants off and I'm getting comfy on the couch. I don't know what the age is, or maybe it's not even an age thing, because I think about it now, and I have known people who live this lifestyle since their 20s, but there's just a certain point where the mindset flips. And all of a sudden, the idea of being home on any given day, whether it's weekday or weekend, goes from being lame to just being the best option on the table. I was doing my New York Times crossword, not the big one. I'm not that smart. I do the small ones as just a way to fill some time on the bathroom toilet. But I did see a saying that triggered me a little bit. One of the clues was about working like a dog. And it's a phrase that has always wrinkled my brain at least a little bit, because I don't know about anybody else. My dog has exactly two settings. One is sleeping in almost every conceivable position in the house, whether it's in my bed, in my office, on the couch, in any sunbeam that manages to crack its way through the curtains. My dog is sleeping a good 60 to 70% of the day. And then when she's up and at it, working, so to speak, it is the most frantic, nonsensical digging and scratching and clawing and running and back and forth and foolishness that I've ever seen. If I had an employee, if I was a business owner / operator, and I had an employee that worked like an actual dog, they would probably be on, at the very least, probation, and more likely their way to the unemployment line. And I can understand that maybe it harkens back to a time where dogs were not necessarily bred to be our best friends and pals and lazy and hang out with us, and more bred for jobs like herding and that sort of thing. Sure, maybe at some point, working like a dog meant something that you could be proud of. But when you hear someone say it now, it's have you seen a dog lately? I love dogs. They really are man and woman's best friend. But at the same time, again, the last thing I want in a coworker, a subordinate, or an employee is someone who works like a dog. It's almost as bad as it's to stay in the animal realm. The phrase raining cats and dogs. We've been getting a ton of rain so far this summer. I have heard on more than one occasion that it is raining cats and dogs out there. What in God's name was happening the day the first person who coined that phrase said, oh my God, it's raining cats and dogs? Because it's one of two things. Either this person had such an abundance of cats and dogs that they were just everywhere, falling off the furniture, climbing up the walls, completely overtaking the place where they lived, and that seeped its way into his vocabulary. Or there was some sort of horrific tragedy in which cats and or dogs were falling from a great height in a massive quantity. Either way, it's a phrase that makes absolutely no sense. I'll give you one other one, and I don't think I need to explain why this is weird. Bite the bullet. Normally meant to be if someone has to just put their head down and get through something that they're not entirely excited about. But why are we biting the bullet? There is literally no scenario in which you should ever, for any reason, bite a bullet. Ryan, what is this saying that has never made sense to you?
Slept like a baby.
Has to have been invented by someone who's never had a baby.
I agree. Like, I have 3, and they might sleep well for maybe a little period of time, but in the long run,
A baby can have like real deep, peaceful sleep for like 4 minutes, and then they're rolling over, or they're awake, or they're hungry, or they peed, or they pooped. It is the most erratic. If human adults slept like babies, no one would ever get any work done.
exactly,
We would all fight so much more because we would all be so cranky.
and a lot less clean.
The phrase more than one way to skin a cat, I'm willing to acquiesce that yes, there probably is more than one way to skin a cat. I guess the question I would have is, how much cat skinning are you doing on a regular basis that you need to know one proper way, much less multiple proper techniques for this? Who's skinning all of these cats? Who hurts you? What's wrong with you? So many animal-related idioms, too. Robert on the phone. Robert, you said that you had one that bothers you when you hear it?
3825ing the dog.
You know, I can fully accept and admit that you shouldn't be doing that at work. That's definitely not okay in the workplace or actually really anywhere. But why is it lazy?
I have no idea.
I'm not endorsing it in any way, but I do feel like there is some effort involved if you're doing that to any creature, dog or otherwise.
It's working a lot harder because then you got to catch them.
It's not okay to be on your phone while you're driving. And we've all been guilty of it. I'm not sitting up here on some high horse throne looking down on the people. I've grabbed my phone to respond to a text before or to look something up real quick. It's dumb. It's dumb when I do it. It's dumb when you do it. It's dumb when 74 people in New Jersey were so engrossed in their own phones that they didn't notice a police officer in a really lame Bush costume catching them on their phones. See, an officer in New Jersey put on what kind of looks like a ghillie suit. Like if you've ever looked into like snipers and stuff like that, or you watch those war movies with snipers where they dress up in the suit that looks sort of like frilly grass so that they can hide and shoot at the enemy. Instead of hiding in a field, in a war zone, this officer was standing on the side of the road pretending to be a bush next to a tree. And it's funny, and you'd never think that it would work until he caught 74 different people over the span of 6 hours blatantly on their phone. And you just have to assume that they were definitely deeply engrossed in whatever was on their phone, because I feel like anybody paying even remote attention would look up and be like, is that a person dressed in a ghillie suit? Is there an active shooter happening here? Like, it would catch your attention. You would at the very least want to know more about what was going on. It would probably make you put your phone down for a minute and pay better attention. But for 74 different people, they were so into their texts, their Facebook, their Candy Crush, their YouTube, whatever it is, that they didn't notice a grown man dressed as a bush. The next time you're out on the road, just keep in mind that if you really need to see what's on your phone, you can pull over. The odds are good that wherever you're going, you're not in that much of a hurry that it'll ruin your day if you stop to look at your phone. And if you are in that much of a hurry, you probably don't need to be looking at your phone. You're in a hurry. Pay attention to where you're going so that you can get there on time or late or however the situation has arisen. And if you see a man dressed as a bush on the side of the road, just know it's almost certainly not going to be for anything good. I went to see the new Spider-Man movie on the weekend, and I have to say, everybody should see it. It's maybe the best superhero movie in the last handful of time, because not only does it have a great story, but it has fun action sequences, which usually the superhero movies we're getting these days have one or the other. Either the action is amazing, but the story makes no sense, or the story is pretty good, but the action is kind of tame. This had the best of both worlds. Tom Holland is Spider-Man forever and deserves an award from basically every country for being a national treasure. That said, I cried during the movie. And there's a couple parts. There's a couple parts in there that got me a little bit misty, a little weepy. Some of it as just someone who's like been reading Spider-Man comics since I was a kid, so some nostalgia. Some of it as a dad, because there's some like parent dad moments that are in there that I think that you should see, that I feel okay with saying. Gave me a little bit of the vapors, a little bit of the weepies. I find myself crying during movies a lot more often. And I know part of that is like as you get older and there's hormone changes and all that other stuff. But I think also just like as you get older, you get more life experiences. You go through more trials, more hardships, more happiness, all the different things that can trigger emotional responses. And therefore there are more things that can make you emotional. So I'm not embarrassed by it. I am a little embarrassed by some of the movies I have cried at. Like I cried at the Spider-Man movie. I cried at the new Toy Story movie. That one not embarrassed about. If you make it through that movie as an adult without crying, you should see somebody. You may be over-medicated. Your emotions have been stifled to a point of that being kind of unhealthy. I also cried a little bit at the Minions movie. I took my kids to go see Minions and Monsters. And there was a moment towards the end where like I had a little bit of a like, oh no, I'm welling up, I'm tearing up. And that one I don't necessarily tell you with a point of pride in my heart. That one is a little bit more of like, oh no, I might need more medication. I might be on the other side of the spectrum. But I do, I do love when you go to see a movie that gives you more than one emotion. When you can go and there's parts where you laugh or you're mad at the villain or something that's bad that's happened in the movie, or a movie that can give you an honest to God emotional twinge where like without even thinking about it, suddenly you find yourself welling up. That to me in my 40s is what makes a movie a killer time out, like worth the money if I can get an emotional response from it. And if that movie happens to feature the Minions, then so be it. That's who I am now. Dad, what's the last movie that made you cry?
The $1 Million Baby, Clint Eastwood. To me, it takes a bigger man to actually drop the tears than it does to hold it in.
Yeah, and if it happens to be to a Clint Eastwood movie, then so be it.
Exactly. And what's funny is Clint Eastwood made us all tough, right?
That was a guy who wouldn't even wear sunglasses, stare directly into the sun so he could squint harder while he was doing all those old Westerns. And yet here he is, twisting the knife on us emotionally nowadays.
That and Gran Torino.
Hell, even that baseball movie where he's a scout that can't see too good. I was like, he's trying his best.
Exactly.
Sarge, what is the last movie that made you cry?
Honestly, probably the Bee movie. I watched it a couple weekends ago, and you know what? It's just one of those cult classics in the bees world. The bees are going to end. The whole hive's going to go down, and, kind of just makes you tear up. And at the end, they all group together and save the day. It's just one of those heartwarming stories.
I have watched the Bee movie countless times, both as a dad and also as somebody who used to do drugs. But I will say that I don't know that the movie has ever brought me to tears, but I already said I cried during the Minion movie. So like, I'm not here to cast judgment, brother.
You know what? It's all about the style of the movie, right?
There is something about Jerry Seinfeld leading all those bees to save the day at the end that just does be like, you know what? Maybe we can get along after all.
Oh, what a great movie.
We've known for a while now that AI chatbots are maybe net negative on society. They have led to addictive personalities for some people. They have led to people just sort of not thinking on their own anymore and letting AI do all of the driving. But to make things even worse, some of us are falling in love with AI. According to a new survey, 15% of men who've used AI chatbots have had flirty conversations. And you have to think about a few things here. 15% might not sound like a lot, but we are talking about human beings flirting with AI code, strings of data, ones and zeros on a box on the internet. Any number is not a great number. And two, people are generally shy about things that they know might be a little bit embarrassing. This is 15% of men who admitted that they have had flirty conversations with AI. Women are not off the hook, by the way. 8% of women who were surveyed. And I feel like women are more likely to hide this information because they tend to be a little bit more aware of what makes them look silly. 8% of women say that they have also had flirty conversations with an AI chatbot. Just to be super clear, if you've thought about it, don't go outside, meet real people. That's how it's supposed to go. Please don't flirt with AI. They're not going to treat you better when they take over the planet.
Would you rather? Wednesday. Would you rather Wednesday?
Yes, Would You Rather Wednesday. You give us options. We debate as to which one could possibly be better, or in most situations, which one could be less worse. And we'll start with, I believe, what is one of those scenarios. This one says, would you rather eat nothing but chocolate-covered bugs or bug-covered chocolate? And there's an argument to be made on both sides here, because bug-covered chocolate, while obviously disgusting, you could brush it away. Like, you could try to wipe the bug off of the chocolate and only therefore get small amounts, which is just a little bit of protein anyway. Chocolate-covered bugs, I've tried bugs on a couple different occasions, usually at like a fair or on a dare or some sort of challenge, and 0 times has it gone in a way that I would look back on fondly. So I think, gross as it might be, I think bug-covered chocolate is the way to go. I think you've got a better chance of making it out unscathed. James wants to know, would you rather look like Jar Jar Binks or sound like Jar Jar Binks? Which is a tough question because most people hate Jar Jar Binks and what it represents for the turn that the Star Wars franchise took. But also, if you've ever seen or heard Jar Jar Binks, it's an impression I don't feel comfortable doing because it feels super racist. So I think I would rather look like Jar Jar Binks, because I think if you talked like Jar Jar Binks all the time, you're gonna catch hands. Someone's going to take it personally, take it the wrong way, and that's not gonna go well for you. Zach wants to know, would you rather drink spoiled white milk or spoiled chocolate milk? A lot of bad food ones today. I think I would rather drink spoiled white milk because I think you would know quicker and you'd be able to just walk away from it. Whereas if you took a sip of spoiled chocolate milk, not only do you get that rough spoiled milk reaction, but I would rather be turned off by milk. I would rather be nervous about drinking milk going forward than chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is delicious, and I don't want to associate any bad things with chocolate milk ever. So I think I'd rather drink spoiled white milk, just so long as it was like a one-time, one-sip kind of thing. Josh says, would you rather work every single day straight, 7 days a week for 3 months? So that's like 90-ish days of work. But then you get 3 months off, or work 3 14-hour shifts a week and get the other 4 days off. It's tough because obviously in our job, we work 3.5 hours a day of actual on air for the show, but then there's all the hours we put in doing stuff like the podcast or the new video podcast, which, by the way, you can start watching on YouTube. Text YouTube if you want to get a link to see what that looks like. We just dropped the first one yesterday. Our job is weird. We don't work standard hours. So working every single day for 3 months and then getting 3 months off, that it would be tiring mentally, but it would also be a nice vacation at the end of it all. Versus 3 14-hour shifts. I don't think I could do 14 hours on the radio. I think someone would show up here and make it stop if I was on the air for 14 consecutive hours in 3 consecutive days. So I think I would take the work every single day straight, but only because I don't have a real job. If I had a real job that required real strength and effort, that would probably be how you get into an early grave. Fantastic news, everybody. If you can hear the sound of my voice right now, and this all isn't some elaborate computer simulation, it means we're still alive. And if that sounds like a weird thing for me to have said, because why wouldn't we be alive? Well, because a rocket crashed into the moon this morning. And as much as NASA was telling everybody, listen, everything's going to be fine, it's not that big of a deal, I personally feel like anytime a giant piece of machinery filled with fuel crashes into the moon at 5,400 kilometers an hour, estimated, that's not the best news to have in a given day. But that is something that happened this morning. So SpaceX, the company owned by Elon Musk that does a lot of space travel, space exploration, they are kind of leading the way, even ahead of NASA, in terms of getting things off of our planet and up into the black above us and towards the moon and all that stuff. In January of last year, a couple of boosters were left in orbit January after they had completed their cycle. And normally these things, they stay in orbit and then they get pulled back down through Earth's atmosphere. And some of them have self-landing technology. They land on these platforms out in the ocean. Other ones burn up on re-entry, and some of them land in the ocean and have to go and be recovered. But for some reason, this one, I don't know if it drifted out of our orbit or it was pulled out of our orbit. I'm not a space scientist. I am a word sprinkler. But it eventually got pulled into the gravitational pull of the moon. And as of about 3 a.m. Eastern time this morning, was believed to have crashed into the surface of the moon. And again, in my mind, that feels like the plot of a movie. Like the rocket will hit the moon and it will uncover some sort of alien cave or den, and they will be pissed and they will take over the Earth. And now we're all living in some sort of space super troopers, not super troopers, space troopers, whatever. We're all going to fight alien bugs and die. But NASA seems to be convinced that this is actually good news because the impact will kick up a bunch of lunar dust and debris, create a new crater, and could be something worth studying. So I believe we're just waiting for the moon to rotate a little bit. NASA's got all their telescopes pointed up there looking at the impact, and maybe we discover something from here. Or maybe we just learn that it's not the worst thing in the world to throw our garbage at the moon, which I don't think we should do. But, you know, if it saves money, billionaires will do literally anything they can to send their problems into space instead of dealing with them here on Earth. But again, we're alive, and I don't think that can be understated as important this morning. Just want to say, I saw an article today that says that eating pasta can have an actual therapeutic effect on your mental health. The idea of sitting down with a warm bowl of spaghetti or noodles or whatever your flavor is when it comes to pasta can actually send signals to your brain that can help you to feel better if you're feeling a little bit down. So the next time that you find yourself eating a can of Chef Boyardee right out the microwave with a fork over the sink, just know that that's a good thing. People will try and tell you otherwise, but what you're doing is really healthy, and I'm proud of you for doing it.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.